I'm Robert Simmerall from the Naval Postgraduate School Center for Homeland Defense and Security. With us today we have Mr. Tony Placido, who is the Chief Intelligence Officer from the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, who is going to talk to us a little bit about the role of intelligence within DEA and also supporting the broader intelligence community. As we know, DEA is one of the newer members of the intelligence community, and we're eager to learn more about DEA's role and how it contributes to U.S. intelligence. Tony, welcome to Naval Postgraduate School.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Nice to see you today. I have some questions that I'd like to ask you, and starting off as the Chief Intelligence Officer for DEA, what are your top priorities for intelligence? Or perhaps put another way, what is it that keeps you up at night?
Well, clearly what keeps me up, and I think all people affiliated with the United States government, is the fact that within the holdings that we have at the Drug Enforcement Administration, we might not promptly share information that could help other agencies avert a tragedy. And I guess that goes right to the heart of my very top priority, and that is to make sure that we collect the right information and then we move that information expeditiously to those who might use it to help protect the country. Beyond that overarching goal, I guess that covers everything that we do at DEA, I'd have to say that during this time frame, the drug threat emanating from Mexico and activities in Afghanistan probably going to dominate the DEA agenda for the foreseeable future.
Yes, I think that's pretty well characterizes some of your top priorities. Who would you characterize as your main customer set or your clients from the DEA? I mean, you must have a pretty broad list of constituents, I would guess. And then both externally, outside the administration itself, but also internally, who you support.
Well, certainly internally, the customer base that we support are those investigators, both from DEA and our partners around the world, who are looking to put together that mosaic of information that will help us identify, disrupt, and dismantle these transnational crime groups. Interestingly, when DEA rejoined the intelligence community, we weren't given new authorities under Title 50 of the National Intelligence Program, but rather said that the information that we collect, which is in some ways anecdotal to our mission under Title 21 and Title 18 of the United States Code, often has great utility for other members of the national security team. And so in terms of our external partners, it would be the traditional intelligence community representatives, the CIA, NSA, Homeland Security, FBI group. And I guess a couple of examples that really demonstrate that and bring it close to home. In our activities in Afghanistan, we routinely, during the process of our narcotics investigations, develop information that has helped prevent and thwart improvised explosive device attacks on coalition forces in Afghanistan. We have, from a human informant network down there, developed information that prevented successful attacks on President Karzai and on the U.S. ambassador to Afghanistan. So there is that sort of timely information, and I try not to be cute about it, but we find ourselves, particularly in a place like Afghanistan, fishing out of the same cesspool as the folks who are doing the counterterrorism work. Even if the objectives of our inquiries are different, there are these shadow facilitators who are the money launderers and the transportation brokers and the document forgers that we have in common, whether it's counterterrorism or counter-drugs. I think we see the same thing to a certain extent in places like Mexico, and increasingly as we become engaged in Africa, we're seeing connections between transnational crime groups and international terrorism. The confluence between terrorism and drugs is certainly an emerging threat.
If I could pick up on a comment that you made, you said that when the DEA rejoined the intelligence community, so interested in some of that history of DEA's previous involvement.
Well, interestingly, from 1978 to 1981, DEA was actually part of the intelligence community. In 1981, based on concerns about the perceptions of our foreign partners, they were renegotiating Executive Order 12333 at the time, and at our request, DEA was dropped from the roles of the intelligence community. As time changed and events changed, after 9/11/2001, I think for two main purposes, DEA requested to rejoin the community. First and most importantly, for altruistic reasons and as members of the U.S. government, we clearly thought that we had something we could bring to bear and that we wanted to help protect the nation. In addition to that, and if I can speak candidly here, one of our concerns was that we didn't want to wait until there had been another attack on the country and have people trying to perhaps shoehorn us into the community in a way that didn't work for us. So we sought out a mechanism whereby we could rejoin the community and still preserve the unique character of DEA as a law enforcement organization. And the way we split the baby on that basically was, colloquially, we talk about DEA as a member of the intelligence community. In reality, it's a part of DEA that is formally within the intelligence community, our Office of National Security Intelligence. And that office follows all of the rules, policies, and procedures governing intelligence community activities, but it still leaves the larger DEA free to conduct traditional law enforcement organizations without regard to, for example, restrictions on collecting against U.S. persons. So we feel we have the best of both worlds now.
2006 is when you rejoined. As number 16, and a few short years, how well integrated do you think you've become? Do you have an audience with the DNI?
We do.
Yeah.
We're fully integrated. Clearly there's much work to be done, but I think in terms of the immediate work that needed to be done, we're members on a number of boards. I sit, for example, on the executive committee with the DNI and all the other heads of the IC. The head of our Office of National Security Intelligence is on the DEXCOM. We have expanded our SCIF and brought in all the connectivity to the JWICS, TSSCI level systems for connectivity. And probably most importantly, we have transformed our reports officers program to really meet the needs of the intelligence community and generate, we project that we will generate somewhere on the order of 5,000 to 6,000 intelligence information reports this year that'll be posted and disseminated to the broader community. And these are those elements we extract from our normal law enforcement reporting that are deemed to have some national security relevance.
How many analysts do you have now with, sort of the line
right.
Doing the actual analysis?
Well, the overall staffing levels, the authorized positions, 942 analytic positions within all of DEA.
That's pretty impressive.
It is a large number,
Yeah.
and one of the things I think many people don't understand is the little I intelligence mission of DEA. I say little I as in law enforcement intelligence. And I've had this discussion recently with members of the HIPSI and CISI staff who I guess are only now coming to grips with this, but the nature of drug trafficking, the work that we do, requires us to engage in proactive information gathering. So as not to confuse it with intelligence collection, but realistically, if you think about a willing drug seller and a willing drug buyer, if they get together and agree to do a transaction, nobody calls the police if it goes well. So the first order of business in a drug law enforcement world is to identify if a violation has occurred and then to find out who did it. So we've been in the information gathering and little I intelligence business for a long time. The role that we now assume as full members of the intelligence community is to take that global information gathering mechanism and expand it. When we're talking to our networks of informants out there, is to go beyond asking about the drug case and ask about international terrorism, weapons of mass destruction, and other matters of relevance to the national security. So it's not a big leap for us, but it does require a cultural shift in our mindset.
So if you look at the whole intelligence process, collection is a big part of what you do.
It is, and
Yeah.
I think one of the things that sets DEA and sets my position apart anyway, um, I am responsible for the management of 942 Intel analysts, but I also have tasking authority for 5,000 plus special agents that do the collection. Now, they don't work directly for me, but we like to think of our program as an intelligence program and not an analytics shop. And we can't analyze what hasn't been collected.
That's a good way of looking at it. They are really your sensors. You're the 5,000 that are collecting to support the analytical effort. Are the analysts deployed globally, or are they pretty much dispersed?
They are. DEA has the largest footprint of any federal law enforcement organization. If my math is right, and the number is constantly shifting here since President Morales threw us out of Bolivia, but we, at last count, have, I believe, personnel assigned in 90 countries, 90 offices in 64 countries around the globe. About 10% of our workforce, and that includes both our special agents and our analytic cadre.
That's impressive. Also presents a management challenge, no doubt.
It does.
Keep them synchronized, and yeah.
Probably one of the most important things from an internal management perspective to come about as a result of our rejoining the community was to establish a system of FIMs, or Field Intelligence Managers. And we thought that that was very important as we tried to make this culture change, that we include not only this cadre of people in the Office of National Security Intelligence in Washington, but that the senior intelligence representative in each of our domestic field divisions and each of our foreign regions had a foot in the intelligence community as well, and essentially allows me the ability to have one-stop shopping, whether it's collection or analysis in various parts of the world or various regions of the United States.
You mentioned at the top of the program, and let me circle back to that for a moment, information sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of your top priorities. As we know, the whole IC has been well criticized for not coming yet up on the step to do effective, creating an effective information sharing environment. What are we doing about that from the DEA perspective, with all your clients out there that are eager to receive the intelligence that you're generating?
Probably the single most important thing that we've done, and I don't take personal credit for this, but when the DNI was formed and the old, the Director of Central Intelligence concept was going away, one of the things that we lost was a program manager for the counter-narcotics portfolio. The new DNI set up mission managers and issue managers for a variety of things, both geographic and functional. So you had a counterterrorism mission manager, and you had mission managers for China and Iran and so on. But there was no mechanism to handle the counter-drug portfolio or to be a champion for that issue within the community. My colleague at the Crime and Narcotics Center at CIA and I got together. We lobbied to have a mission or issue manager created, and to no avail. And so effectively we created our own. And there's a body now called ADDICT, or the Anti-Drug Intelligence Community Team. It represents 14 U.S. government agencies with counter-drug intelligence responsibilities. Greg Moulton from the Crime and Narcotics Center, myself, co-chair the group. And this group really focuses on joint projects. I will say not as much on the collection side as it is on the analytic piece, but what it's really done is it's created a body, an interagency body, that has become the de facto voice of the U.S. government, a one-stop shopping, if you will, for counter-drug assessments. And we've recently published our first President's Daily Brief as a group,
Yeah.
and done, I guess at this point, about 12 or 13 interagency collaborative publications. So it's very much a work in progress, but we're optimistic that we're moving in the right direction. And the next steps ultimately will be to transition from joint analytic collaboration to operational targeting at that level as well.
If I could to ask you one more question, and sort of in closing, you certainly given us a full measure of your perspectives on a pretty impressive DEA intelligence enterprise. Vision, next 2 or 3 years, looking out, where do you think you want to take the DEA?
Well, I think certainly more fulsome collaboration with the community is something that we're very interested in, and I think if there's one area that is probably of paramount importance to me, and I believe to the nation, it is this linkage between transnational drug crime and terrorism. If you use the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crimes figures, transnational drug crime, the profit, not even the revenue stream, the profit represents about $322 billion a year. Used to sound like a large number, now it's half a stimulus package, but irrespective, it's the single largest source of illicit revenue that we know of out there. And I think as the U.S. government and our coalition partners have done a good job in drying up state sponsorship of terrorism, have gone after illicit finance with some of the charities, or the so-called charities, we're seeing more and more of these terrorist organizations singing for their supper, if you will, engaging in criminal activity to fund their operations. That was certainly true of the Madrid train bombing, where they used MDMA and hashish trafficking to generate the proceeds for that attack. We're seeing Hezbollah and the Quds Force and other organizations engaged in criminal activity. I think the verdict is still out as to how high up in the organization and whether that's actually being directed from the top. But it occurs to me, and I think to us at DEA, that there is a confluence among and between transnational drug crime and transnational terrorism, and it's an area that we have to look at. So the likes of Mansour al-Qassar, who now sits convicted in a U.S. prison as a result of a DEA case, and if that name doesn't ring a bell, he's a Syrian-born national that was involved in the hijacking of the Achille Lauro and the murder of Leon Klinghoffer, resulted from a DEA investigation. The so-called Lord of War, Victor Bout, is sitting in a Thai prison today as a result of a DEA case. We think that there are going to be areas like this where, and we're not trying to become the counterterrorism police, but where information collected as part of a drug investigation, when crossed with the information that other parts of the government that are focused on terrorism, that we can use some of these tools and help protect the homeland.
That's good. Homeland security and protecting the homeland is what it's all about.
Well, we're all Americans at the end of the day. Before I was a DEA agent, I was an American.
Tony, thank you very much for joining us today. And we do appreciate your keen insights and perspectives on DEA. And I think we can say that we're very gratified that DEA has become the newest member of the intelligence community.
It's been my pleasure, Bob.